Good morning, everyone. This is Patrick at Qdabra. We are about 4 minutes away from the beginning of our webinar. We're happy to have you here. We're excited to see attendees joining. And we're also, this is our first webinar for 2026. We have lots more coming your way. This quarter, we've got a renewed focus because of all of the changes that have been happening with the generative AI. We're going to show you how to integrate your forms with your chatbot so you can actually chat your form data and do kind of weird business analysis things with it, even improve your form via chatbots. Of course, Forms Designer will have this stuff built in, as well in the near future. But we're trying different ideas here for you, thinking that a lot of people now might be using Claude Desktop or Claude Code or one of these agentic systems like Claude's got the major news going on right now. But for those of you using it, we're going to be creating tools like MCPs, these model content protocols, where you can actually use the if you've got a product for DBXL which connects to the database, you can have an MCP that will query it from your chatbot so you can get your data. So just quick news announcement there. We're going to start in 2 minutes. And if you've got questions, there's a question answer place. We look forward to your questions. We will start here momentarily. Okay, well, welcome once again to our weekly webinar. And this is Patrick at Qdabra. And today we're talking about a chatbot that we built for SharePoint. And some of you may have seen this viral post that went live last month. Microsoft got some bad press. There was a kind of a satire comment here. This guy was pitching Copilot to all of his directs, and they're like, "Yay, let's do it!" And then the cost skyrocketed, and they didn't get enough usage. But he got an award anyway. And this was kind of a funny post that went out. Um, we're going to show you something today that is a lot easier to deploy and use and control, more importantly, than Copilot. We'll talk about why Copilot is challenging, and we'll talk about the extra costs that come in with Copilot. And so we've got quite a few things to mention here. But first, let's start off with a quick demo. Mel, are you ready?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share out. Okay, so hello, welcome to our webinar today. Thanks for being here. So I'm going to start by showing you qDocChat in action. So this is our support portal or front-facing application where customers reach out to us for support. I'm just going to log in as a support staff member here. And then we're going to be taken to this landing page. I'm going to select Find a Quick Fix, and that opens our integrated qDocChat. This is the same AI-powered document search we're discussing today. So I'm going to ask a real question here. I'm going to say, how do I install qDocChat? Send it in, and then we'll wait for the response. And you'll notice here that in a few more seconds, yeah, right there. So notice how quickly that came back, just a couple of seconds, right? And we'll see here the response. Yeah, it is the exact, it's showing the exact steps that I need to be able to install qDocChat. And here we can see the mention of a site ID. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, what is the site ID for? And yes, where should I spell today? Where should I enter that? Something like that, right? So let's wait for the response. And yeah, so see right there, it's picking it up from where we left off from the previous conversation. It understood I was still talking about the installation and I didn't have to repeat any context. So that's the session memory feature in action. The AI maintains conversation context so that users can have natural flowing conversations, just like talking to a real support agent. Awesome, pretty cool. So I'm thinking I'm going to show you next is how to set this up from scratch. So let me switch over to our Qdabra forms. It's a SharePoint app that makes deploying forms like qDocChat easy, and you'll see for yourselves how straightforward it is to publish forms and templates. So I'm just going to click Upload a new template here, and then browse to my local folder. I'm going to grab the qDocChat template and give this a name. I'm going to say qDocChat demo, maybe place it in my group and click Upload. And that's it. In a couple of seconds here, our template will be published, so to speak. And then just wait for that right there. So the next thing that we're going to open a new form, clicked on that button. So first time opens take a moment to cache. After that, it's instant. What I love about this setup is how accessible it is. Like you don't need a developer team to get this running. You saw how easy it was to publish a form, just upload, right? A SharePoint admin can just handle the entire deployment. Okay, we're still waiting for the qDocChat form to open. Once it's set up, just adding a new document and updating prompts is simple. You can see all of those features really soon here. So here we are. Then, so when I open a new form, qDocChat, right here, it opens in the chat tab right away, ready to go. But the first thing that we need to do after installation is to add our document. So let me just expand the left pane over here so you can see more of the tabs. So we're going to go to the Documents tab. And here we're going to add a document. So let me just delete my previous test there to make sure we're going to start fresh. So once that, after that, I'm ready to click Add Document. And yeah, we'll see, get rid of this prompt here, Add Document. I'm going to browse to my sample document today. We're going to do the employee handbook and click OK and then upload. So it's going to do its thing there. What's happening now is the system is processing and indexing the document, breaking it into like searchable chunks and storing them so the AI can retrieve relevant sections when answering questions. Okay, so just give it a few more seconds there to do its indexing.
And there's a workflow that you can point to a library and suck in all the documents that are in that library, right? You can, I think we have a power automation workflow. I think it's maybe a Logic Apps that allows you to set it up on a library and ingest all of these documents ahead of time, so you don't have to do this manually.
Yeah, exactly. So our document is ready. I'm going to switch over to the chat tab again here. So we're going to start asking questions that's related to what we uploaded. So we're going to say, what's our PTO policy? And then wait for the response. Oh, there we go. There's our answer pulled directly from the employee handbook. We got our our reference here. It's the same exact document that I uploaded. So to recap what just happened, we uploaded a template, we added a document, and we asked the question, all in under a minute. No extra SharePoint configuration, no developer involvement. I'm not a developer myself. No IT tickets, like, right? So SharePoint admin can actually do this today. So let me show you something that really sets qDocChat apart, which is
Mel,
prompt.
let's do that let's go through a few more slides and then come back to that, okay?
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Okay, great. Awesome job. So yeah, so we're designing this. We designed this tool for people who actually admin the data. Your guardians of your information. People who are actually in charge of handling documents, not and that could be policy administrators, it could be compliance officers, support teams, HR leads, and so on. So everyone's like, well, we've got Copilot already. We should just use that. And so we went down this analysis path. We looked at, well, what does it really take? And it turns out that the Copilot path, the do-it-yourself path, it becomes a do-it-yourself path because you end up having to do a lot of things to add features that aren't there. And an example is this um, the security issue. For example, there's an issue with, and maybe Pete, you can talk a little bit to this, but there's an issue with permissions basically, and then, of course, there's the cost issue. Not only is it $30 per user, which, okay, that you've already got the license, that's not an extra cost, but then you have to get Copilot Studio, and you have to get, I think, you have to buy tokens, or not tokens, but like credits, so you can use the API and things like that. So there's a lot of hidden things. Pete, any comments on this?
Yeah, I think to address the security question, that's a big deal with this Copilot deployment that people didn't realize. They have to have in the organization already a lot of diligence around the way that they are deploying security groups within SharePoint. Otherwise, the Copilot that is being used for that purpose will have the same security that the individual has, right? So your Copilot installation, if you will, can then access everything that that individual has access to. And if your organization is not really diligent about how they are deploying security, then that thing can access a whole lot of stuff that was probably unintended.
Right. And in addition, you don't get a test bench. So how do you know when something fails, there's a hallucination? How do you debug that? There's no way to tell or measure how the documents are performing, and there's no audit logs either. I mean, there are if you dig into it, but you have to add that to it as a custom layer to your solution. You don't get that out of the box with Copilot. And so those are just a few things. So this is kind of not an apples to apples here, but the idea here is that you've got more this because it's $30 a user license. Maybe that's something that's already built in. You don't care about that, but you still have to deal with the developer time and the studio license. And what we're presenting is something that's much less expensive, a couple of orders of magnitude at least, much easier to deploy, much easier to modify as a SharePoint admin. You don't have to be a developer. And yeah, so it's predictable licensing. There's no surprises. You don't have this. We have a secure query only access layer built in. It's the library where the documents live, right? You don't have to duplicate the libraries. And then we'll talk about the test bench here in a minute. So we're almost back to you, Mel. We've done a bunch of new improvements just in the last month. We increased the performance, and we're using Grok's model for this, but you can change it. Mel will show how to change it here in a minute because it's really easy to change to a different model. That memory stuff that you saw earlier, it's got memory now, so it's got memory across different chats within the same chat session. And Samyam is going to demo response logging and accuracy here, how to measure accuracy in a minute. So the real math here is we're a lot cheaper than Microsoft. Even in the best case scenario, they're a couple orders of magnitude higher and most importantly, it's a black box, which you could go into it as a developer and add, figure it out and add a whole bunch of custom things. But we're kind of giving you this in a transparent way, and this is what Mel's going to show next. So the ability to control those prompts, Mel, that's the key thing for governance. Do you want to share it again?
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, so here we are in our prompts management interface. This is where you can control how the AI behaves, just like Patrick said. And previously we were getting responses in English. Now watch what happens when I adjust the system prompt to, let's say, so this is the prompt that we've been using, is the instructions that the app is trying to follow, right? So here we're going to say, respond in Spanish. So something really obvious to us to see that it's going to work. The instructions are going to be, carried over. And the reason we changed was to say demo, yeah, something like that. And then save prompt. Okay, so that was changed. Now let's go to the chat tab here and ask another question. Let's just ask the same question. What's our PTO? What's our policy for PTOs? And we'll see if it will follow our instructions. There you go. The response is now in Spanish. So same document, same AI, but we've changed its behavior instantly just through prompt configuration.
I asked, I thought of this multiple language thing, not because this is actually a scenario that you guys are going to use, because you wouldn't do this, right? If they ask in Spanish, it'll probably respond in Spanish. So, Mel, if you change it back and you ask in Tagalog or Filipino, will it respond in Filipino or will it respond in English? Like if it sees that you're asking a question in a language, it'll respond to that in that language, right?
You want to try that? Like if
Yeah,
I change my
let's try
language.
that. Yeah, go ahead and reset your session there or change the prompt back and refresh, and let's just go back to the original screen and just ask it in Filipino and see if it responds in Filipino, right?
Right
Because like you
now,
could just say in the prompt in the chat, you could just say, yeah, actually just do it there. That's fine.
mhm.
I mean, I think the prompt will override it, but if you don't have respond in Spanish in the prompt, then it should work, right?
Yeah, let's give it a try. It's a good test. So that's in Tagalog, that's in Filipino, it's my language. But you are actually right. It responded to me in
Yeah.
Filipino.
So you wouldn't like have this heavy-handed approach of responding in Spanish to everyone, but it just does show you though that the prompt is live. That was really the purpose of the demo.
Nice.
Awesome. Thanks, Mel. And can you show them where the model is set in the settings?
Sure, here in the settings tab, got these models.
Hmm.
We're using Grok.
And they can change it by just clicking on the drop down, right?
Yeah.
And then pasting in their API key. Okay. And then what about the sessions in the chat on the left? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we also store the sessions here in the admin panel. So these were my previous tests. So if you just look at one or two of these, we'll see that I've been testing. And this is a good reference as to if you want to do auditing, right? See what kind of questions are users asking? Did they get the good response? Did they get good responses, right? And you can even see if they liked a response or disliked it, and it will show you the reason as well. So yeah.
Great, thanks. Okay, let's go back to the slides real quick. Yeah, so in addition to the prompt management, which allows you control, so you can actually change the prompt to give it the kind of language that you want to provide, like, corporate speak. You've got some key terms in your business that may appear in the documents, but maybe you want to respond in a certain way every single time. You have that ability to create a template using that prompt guide that Mel showed, whereas you don't with Copilot. The system prompt requires customization in Copilot Studio to get to that. So that's where the developers come in, and then your costs skyrocket. Or maybe the developers are using AI or whatever. I don't know, but still, it's a lot of work. And then anytime you want to go to a change, you have to go through the developers. So SharePoint admins with our tool can just do it themselves. They don't have to rely on other people to get their and there's no code. So yeah, so in addition to that, we've got this test bench, and the reason for the test bench is to give you confidence that the system is actually functioning in observable, in a way that is consistent. You can observe the results. You can we've got a similarity metric. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Simon is going to show, but in general, what we're doing is inside the test bench, we're taking a whole bunch of query answer sets, some of which are generated from your customers, some of which you could generate yourselves or synthetically generate, and then the answers, right? So and this is the documents, right, that you have. So that's your ground truth. So the queries come with answers, the correct answer, and then you've got your documents, and you feed these all in, and it gives you a result. It's like, okay, we were able to answer 64% of the questions. Now, this may seem a little bit low to you, but in reality, this is the scoring that we've got. So we've got kind of this interesting similarity score where at 0.64, it's like it's almost mostly complete. Like 0.7 would be mostly complete. So that's showing you that across all 42 of the questions, I think for this set, it's actually mostly complete, right? So we wouldn't necessarily expect a perfect score. That would be exactly perfect. And there's always going to be a little bit of a variance because we're generating it every time with the AI. And it depends on the AI. So if you've changed your model to something else, it will change. So OpenAI assistant might be slightly higher, might be slightly lower. Claude might be slightly higher. And so it also depends on your queries and your answer sets. So but it gives you the ability to measure it. And then you can actually drill down and you can actually see what's happening. So let's switch to you, Samuel. Are you ready to demo?
Yeah, thank you. I'll share my screen. Yeah, so this is the test bench dashboard. When we log into the test bench, we see this dashboard, and we can log into the test bench with the config owner email. And for this test bench, we have this as a owner email, and there are different things that we can do in the test bench. Let's go to them one by one. The first thing that I would like to show here is this standalone queue assets. So these are the queue assets mostly asked by the customers that we have gathered together and saved them. So these are not related to any of the documents that we have stored or they are synthetically generated. So these are the actual queue assets that somebody have asked, and these are the expected answers that have been saved here. And similarly, we can also manage different documents like we can do in the form. We can also do that here. We can either add documents. We can also add QSS or synthetically generate QSS for all of the documents. We can also add QSS manually for each document like this. We can enter queries and either answer save an answer manually or ask LLM to generate an answer. And we can do a bunch of different things here. And let's go to the main part of the test bench, which is the test bench part. So if I click on this get base patrons data table, it will fetch us all of our previous runs. And each run was basically to test the system, how it is performing. And for last few runs, we have selected this 42 QSS, standalone QSS, to test our batch runs. And what our system does is that it processes these 42 QSS one by one and generate answers and score them. And after it's finished, after all of the QAs are finished, it averages this score, and we can see that how the system is responding. Let's go. We can also check why. So how is QSS are performing, why they are failing, why they are doing good. Let's go to the one that has highest score here. So we got a 0.9 score for this, similarity score for this, when the generated answer was compared with the original answer. Yeah. And the query was this, and we can see that, what sort of documents were referenced were generating this answer. There are lots of the document chunks across different documents. And we can also see what prompt was used to generate this answer. And now let's go to the one that got lower score. So let's go to this, the one that we got a similarity score of 0. Here you can see that this question is asking for the latest version of Forms Designer, and we have our expected answer is version 10.1.12 from December 19, 2025. But the answer that we got here is 3.3 based on the release date on 2024, 12th December 24, almost 1 year of difference. And what it suggests is that we might be missing the document that has this information. That's why we got this wrong answers. And if we have this correct document and we added this document to the system, we should probably get proper or correct answer. We can also look let's also look at this other question here. You can see that this question is pretty much generic, right? We can have lots of other features that are not available here. It might not be just these two. So what we can say that is that this sort of question is bad question, and we should probably delete this from our QA sets, and this will improve our score.
Is one of the things we're going to be
Answer this
working
next
on.
time, yeah.
Yeah, this is great. So, one of the things we're going to be focusing on this quarter is doing automatic categorization of these kinds of errors for you. So there's about 10 different ways queries fail. The document's bad. The query is too vague or ambiguous. Or the answer is wrong in the original query answer set because something has changed, like the version perhaps. So there's lots of reasons why. Obviously, the prompt is another reason. There's about 10 different ways that things can fail. And so we're going to help automatically identify what the failure was and give the admin instructions on how to fix it if they want to. Now, you don't have to do that. You can just keep that score the way it is and rerun it. And then you'll see that it's consistently generating. Now, it's not always the same. You can see here there's some variance between the top to 1028 run and the 1025 run. They're both in the 0.6 range, but one's 0.63 versus 0.60. And that's kind of like the AI will change. It's not going to give you the same response every single time. So that's why we're seeing a little bit of variance there. This is great, Simon. Any questions on this? We're almost done with our presentation, but if you have questions, this is a great time to start asking them. And I just want to, anything else, Samyang? Was that it? Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome job. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
yeah, put a lot of work into this. We're going to be expanding it to make it easy to diagnose and fix issues if you want to do that. But you're going to have a lot of questions because you don't want 42. You probably want for our support documents, I think we have 12,911 questions, and that gives us, it's like 2 cents to run 42, but it's only like $25-$30 to rerun all 13,000 of those QA sets, query answer sets for our support portal. And that gives us confidence that things haven't changed a whole lot because we can rerun the whole thing within a couple hours. And it's just, $25-$30. And that gives us, we can prove that we're getting good responses by doing that. Got a question from one of the attendees. And get right to that. Just 1 second here. Thanks for asking the question. So just in summary, I mean, maybe before we this slide here, in summary, we know obviously there's a lot of green here for qDocChat, and we tried to compare this. Pete did this deep dive into Copilot. Pete, do you want to talk anything more that we're missing here? Any other comments to add in terms of the what you did last year to do a deep dive and figure out what was possible?
Yeah, the deep dive told us a lot, but I think for the attendees today, what is most important is this hidden cost around continuing to maintain a system like this. You know, what you guys have done with qDocChat over this length of time would have to be continued by that do-it-yourself, you know, or in-house developer, right, to get the same level or maintain the same level. So that I think is the biggest watch out for the attendees today if they're thinking about doing a do-it-yourself project.
Yeah, and sorry for one of the attendees had your hand raised. I think we can unmute you. Sorry, I didn't catch that real quickly, but yeah, let me try that again here. If you I forget who it was. I think it was
It was
Diane.
Diane.
Was it Diane?
Yeah.
Okay. So Diane, you got the mic.
Hi, thank you
Hey.
for unmuting me. Yeah, I was just starting to type it in there, but I wanted to ask how many documents can this chatbot analyze, or how many can we bring in? Because we've been attempting to build an agent and Copilot for all of our health and safety policies, and we have dozens and dozens and dozens. And we found that it can only seem to analyze like 7 documents at once, and it's just not working for us. So then somebody tried to put all the documents into one giant, you know, I guess Word or PDF, and then it wasn't able to parse things out, and it was just a mess.
Right.
So
Mel, can you show the documents for the support portal? Just to show how many, I think we have 1,000 in there. I think in general, there was a really interesting paper published last year. You can share, if you can share out, Mel, just show the
Yeah.
admin portal. That'd be great. There's interesting research done on these RAG systems last year that said that there's a fundamental limit around 10,000 documents. And of course, it depends on the document size and everything. But so they proved essentially mathematically that there was things started to fall apart, after some several thousand. So we're actually adding the hybrid search into RAG this quarter as well. So one of the other things we're doing is we tried to do this last year in Q3 of last year, and we're trying to basically do both RAG, which is the embedding database, and then the traditional BM25 search to give us two ways to do it to get around this 10,000 doc limit. But certainly it's not 7 documents. We've got 977 there, and and so this is giving us, and I think that when we ran Samuel, when you ran the 12,911 QA sets, what's the score we're getting for Grok? Can you share that out? Because the 42 is kind of a special set just for queries that our actual users have asked from outside, right? But the QA sets that we generated to do the testing are all synthetic. And of course, we're reviewing them and trying to improve them. But what was the score, Samuel? Was it like 70% or 75? I forget.
Let me just get that.
You can just say it. That's fine. Great question. Thanks, Diane.
sure, thanks.
Yeah, and then so yeah.
I was just going to say, Patrick, while somebody was looking for that score, we've had really good resolution with, about 100 to 125 documents using the OpenAI assistant mode, right? Different from the RAG mode, but, I have to say, I really love that interaction, that we can have with the OpenAI mode. With our documents, and it just is kind of an amazing capability. We've asked it to do some really interesting things, compare documents and things like that, which we really haven't talked about today, but those are some capabilities which we're finding, when in actual use, it's just amazing.
Okay.
Well, and keep in mind that the other thing to keep in mind here is this idea, just because you have the ability to switch the model. Like if some model comes along that's really a lot better, and the reason why we switched to Grok as the default is it's so much faster and it's so much cheaper. So OpenAI is still there. You can use it. You can add your own key. With the Grok model, though, it allows us to lower the cost down to be really, really cheap, right? So that you can, and it's fast, and so that's why we did that, was just to show that we were trying to respond, I think, Misty, to your Misty's on the call. I think Misty, we were trying to respond to your to Harrison's, or Harrison, you're there too. So I think the speed, it was like taking 10 or 20 seconds to respond with OpenAI. Have you seen that, Pete? Have you seen a longer response time? Have you seen it speed up with Grok? Just kind of curious.
Yeah, no, it's definitely speeded up with Grok. It's noticeable.
And we'll continue to refine the prompts and try to make sure that we're improving the performance with all the models. But you've got the the freedom to choose, so to speak. And instead of having to build this thing from scratch after you discover all these things that Copilot doesn't support, you've got something that you can just deploy today, ingest those documents, and you're up and running, and you can start looking at it, right? So to sort of parallel the first comic that was shown here, this is our follow-up here. What's our PTO policy? It's actually working. They deployed it, and they got huge accuracy. They can actually show the accuracy. The other thing that I want to point out is that if there's a problem with the system and you have done the work to generate the QA sets, which you can, Grok is also really cheap at generating those synthetic QA sets, then you can actually just use those as a frequently asked questions set, and you can fall back from the AI mode to the FAQ mode, which is just using those frequently asked questions. So instead of going to your documents and generating a new answer, it looks up in the frequently asked questions if that question's been asked before, and it returns the known good answer. So that's a nice fail safe if you've got CEO who's complaining to you about some hallucination, you can just turn it off, right? And you can go to a known good scenario. That's it for our presentation. Were there any questions? Any more questions? So 73.54%. Thanks, Sonia. Yeah, so just to let you know, we are planning to show more webinars with these AI tools in the near future. I think that we're going to show you how to take your forms. If you got Qdabra forms, you know what a form is. A form is essentially it's a way to get high quality input from your users, from people, humans actually, and then that's your window, and it feeds into your business processes, line of business systems, database systems. The form is really important because it pushes all of the validation and the checking to the client, so that you don't get the whole form done and hit submit and then it fails to submit because there's some database conflict. That never happens with these web-based forms because we push all of that knowledge, that know-how, validation rules and things like that into the form, right? And the forms are very rich and smart. Well, if you're using Claude desktop these days, which I think everyone's doing, they've got this new thing called skills. So think of your forms as just skills in Claude, right? Where you've got all of this stuff that you configure. And we're thinking about saying, well, if you got this skill, which is your form, we can take it apart and you can use it. And you can then analyze it and look at your forms across all your forms using some of these tools that we're going to be deploying for people that have Claude, and even for people that are just using OpenAI. We use all the four main models here, but we've been particularly impressed with Claude in the last few weeks. I think everyone else has too. I think there's been a major sea change with adoption. The things that people are doing is just incredible. So I hope you are all having a great year. Please join us again, and thanks for being here. Thanks, Pete. Great job, Samyong and Mel. Awesome demos, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a great day. Thanks.
Bye-bye.